Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult video number 349. Stop blaming Satan for your faults. I see Satan and God, in the Judeo-Christian sense generally, as metaphors. That is, if you look at things mystically, and you look at the older religions, paganism, Greek paganism especially, the gods are archetypes. That is, that they stand in for elements of human behavior, human thought, human interaction, human rationale, human philosophy. So you've got creation, you've got destruction. You have the seasons, you have good, you have evil. All of these different things that humans talk about, which are technically psychological as well, certainly behavioral, are an aspect of that religion. I think that monotheists often forsake this concept. They don't even realize that those same mystical traditions have influenced, in large part, their own religions. It's very funny because they often understand this about every religion but their own within the modern monotheistic movement. So the Protestant will look at Catholicism and say it's the whore of Babylon. Look, the Pope wears the mitre, the fish-shaped hat of the Babylonian Dagon. Well, you're correct, technically speaking. It's an evolved version of that, but it's true. That being said, the Protestant movement is informed by some similar philosophical tenets, some similar ritual systems, etc., using many of the same books in the Bible, although, albeit retranslated, it's basically the same, but they will see the splinter in the eye of their brother, and they won't see the plank in their own eye. This is the case with most religious people, though, I've noticed, including people within religions that are more familiar and maybe more amenable to my particular beliefs. There are certainly neo-pagans who are like this. Plenty of atheists are like this. In fact, I would say, on average, and this is no offense to any clanker atheists out there, if I look at mainline atheist content creators, they're arguably more insufferable than any other group. I'm just going to come right out and fucking say it. Arguably more insufferable than the fundamentalist Christians. Somehow they rankle me and sometimes have more of a problem with me and are more censorious than people that they yesteryear used to fight over the concept of book bans and things like this. Amazing atheist. Anyway, stop blaming Satan for your faults. If you have faults, you should address them. The concept that there's some primordial evil entity or some primordial evil energy or spirit or cosmic force causing you to do things that are detrimental to yourself, detrimental to others around you, whatever you have a problem with, you shouldn't be blaming that entity because you still have free agency. There are some religious groups, some spiritual movements, that believe it's possible to have that agency in part or in whole removed. This was actually a big moral panic. I'll get into some occult history here. Back during the period where mesmerism was common, up through especially the concept of influencing people through, not through mesmerism a la Mesmer, but through hypnosis, through suggestion, autosuggestion. It was considered very dangerous by certain people, including many occultists at the time. The idea was that to some degree agency was removed from a person. There were quasi-legitimate worries about some crazy mesmerist going around, some crazy suggestion and hypnosis fan going around and corrupting people. And religious people had an interesting way of construing it. They thought it was the power of the devil. I've edited works that allude to this on several occasions. I think 2 or 3 different works. There was a work by Osborne Eves, Modern Vampirism, I believe, covers the concept of hypnosis and suggestion. And the idea was that it could literally rip a person's spirit out. Ouija boards were treated similarly. By the way, I could do a whole series on moral panics as they relate to spiritual topics. I gotta tell you, when you worry that the Ouija board is going to cause you to become demonically possessed or poltergeist to infest your house, you're basically echoing the Victorian era. I hate to tell you this, but that's a very, very old concept. I also edited a very short work made by a couple of Alaskan widows or something that claimed that nature spirits inhabited Ouija boards. They were literally gnomes and salamanders and stuff. I can't remember the name of the work, but oh boy, was it weird. The fact is, though, that those things do not actually happen. I believe in spirits. Seen one of the demons of the Ars Goetia, actually, Stolas, which I've spoken of. I believe in to some degree, not all of the concepts, the general concept of the psychical. I believe that there is possibly some sort of creator or creators or cosmic force of creation. I'm apatheistic, so I don't really think about that much because I can't prove or disprove it, but there's the possibilities there. When I look at the spiritual world, I think there is so much more there for mankind, and I think definitely it's pragmatic and helpful for it to be promulgated. The study of folklore should be required reading in school, and not just Grimm. I should go far beyond that. Occult studies, I think, are a positive thing for this world, have literally led to some aspects of postmodern civilization. You may think that's good or bad, but the technology aspect of that was, and to an extent is, twain with the spiritual. Wonderful things. But you can't blame some ethereal spirit or some little red man living in a lava lake down deep into the crust of the earth for the fact that you suck. And in some cases, people suck. There are people that suck and there are people that don't suck, but they've done something sucky. And oftentimes they want to have a scapegoat. If it weren't Satan, if they didn't think that one line would work, or they don't happen to believe in religion, and with Satan you got Dajjal and all these other entities from other religions, Kali Ma or something. If it weren't that, they'd say, well, my parenting sucked. Well, society itself caused me to be the way that I am, and they're probably the most right of all the people that are using scapegoats. At least there's some reasoning behind it. All of these metaphors for Satan, God, etc., if you take them in the doctrinal sense as metaphoric, and certainly in mysticism to an extent at least you would. Although it goes further, I've described that before, but we won't get into that for the purposes of this video right now. The metaphoric side of these entities is from human experience. I've often said that sin is effectively the dinosaur of the age of flight. That is, it's something that fits in biologically, but in the era of humans having culture, technology, language, and stuff, biology is no longer king. I mean, it's king in the general sense, and if you reduce people to the animalistic state through too much stress, they'll all revert to that biological factor. They will kill to survive, generally speaking. They will rape to promulgate, generally speaking. If they're under enough stress, if the situation is dire enough, people will revert into little more than orangutans. But we have culture. We have language and so forth. We communicate. We no longer have to communicate by punching each other or hitting each other with a log. We no longer have to replicate through technically involuntary processes in some cases. It's not necessary. We no longer have to all go out and wander through the jungles for 5 miles to find the mango. Sin, if you really study it, is that inherent biological tendency promulgating itself in a creature that has become more refined and no longer needs the biological tendency. Over the course of 100,000 years, eventually you'd think that maybe it would be bred out of mankind to an extent. But we're nowhere near that. We're talking about not much more than 10,000 years of reasonably refined man from the Archaic period. We're talking a few thousand years less than that of general agriculture being available to most of the people in the world. We're talking about not even that long for human language in its modern form. Certainly not mathematics, with the concept of the idea of zero and things like that. And so humans will have to evolve more. Satan is a vestigial aspect of those biological tendencies. Satan, effectively, is just a stand-in, a symbol for biology. In fact, represented this way throughout time as well. The demon of lust, the Belial or whatever, being satanic in nature. Demons stand for human tendencies, generally speaking, which are purely biological. That's the long and short of it, essentially. That's about all. Peace out.